Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today, in preparation for my yearly eyeshadow palette ranking video, I decided to take a little look back at last year at my 2020 ranking of my eyeshadow palettes video to see if I still feel the same about the way I ranked my eyeshadow palettes last year. So we're gonna take a little look back in time. I'm gonna show you guys the eyeshadow palettes on the screen and I'm gonna tell you guys if I still feel the same. I'm gonna go ahead and go down memory lane. I'm sure some of these are not gonna be in the same order anymore, or maybe I actually like them more than I put them. Who knows? Some of these I might have changed my mind about. I might have, you know, put them up on the ranking just a little bit more. So we're gonna go ahead and run through my list from last year, and pretty soon I'm gonna be gathering all of my 2021 eyeshadow palettes and ranking them for you guys. I can't wait for that video. Oh my God, we've got such good videos coming, guys. End of the year videos are my favorite, but let's go ahead, let's not waste any more time and let's get into this. But don't forget to go ahead and hit subscribe, join the family. So either way, let's go ahead, let's run down all the eyeshadow palettes and let's see if I still feel the same. All right, so I'm pulling up the video and I was smart last year and I actually wrote them and numbered them. So that was good. Actually, I should do that again this year so I can help my future self. That's a good idea, Christina. Smart 2020 Christina. Tell me right now, your eyeshadow palette that you loved last year, are you still loving it this year, or are you like changing your mind? Has your style changed? I want to know that down below right now. So this is how we're going to do this. As I'm telling you guys the listing of the eyeshadow palettes, I will have on the screen show up all of the eyeshadow palettes and how they were listed in my ranking last year. I'm going to be going over them one by one, and as we're talking, I'm going to be rearranging them based off of how I would put them this year. So at the end of the video, you guys will see my rearranged list. This is how I would put them in 2021. So I hope that this is fun, and let's go ahead and start right now. Let's start off with number 17. So I guess I purchased 17 eyeshadow palettes last year. I wonder how many I got this year. That's actually going to be pretty exciting. I don't even know. I have no clue how many I got this year. But number 17 was the Marc Jacobs Fantasine eyeshadow palette. So guys, I kind of still feel the same about this one. I did not really love this one too much. I didn't love it. The problem with this eyeshadow palette, it was one that I remember seeing a few YouTubers talk about, that it was so beautiful, and when I saw it was for sale, I think it was at BoxyCharm, that they were doing like a 50% off. I was like, oh my goodness, I need to pick this up, and I added it like an add-on. And it doesn't show up on my skin. Like, I just feel like it's just too light. I love those dusty pinks, but they have to be a certain tone or they just don't show up. And this guy just didn't show up. And then all of the shadows mixed together on my eyes literally made like the same look. Like, I felt like everything just blended into each other. Yeah, no. I still think that this was probably the worst palette that I tried last year. We'll see. Let's keep going, but yeah, that one definitely did not leave a great impression. So the next on the list is the Viseart Paris Edit. Oh, that's pretty low. So I don't know why that's so low on the list. I think that I like that palette. Well, I guess I don't use it that much, but it's not bad. Actually, the palette that I see after this one is worse. So I think I've kind of changed my mind on this one. I probably would have bumped this up just a tad bit more. Also, I feel like this year, in the beginning of the year, like the Paris Edit, that kind of palette was like super popular. This color story was like everywhere. So I did see myself use it a little bit more in 2021 than maybe I did in 2020. I will say, kind of like the same problem with the Marc Jacobs one. This one, the colors did wash out a little bit on my lid, so there was only certain colors that looked really good, and then certain other ones kind of just like died away. So maybe that's the reason I had it so low. Maybe I was a little bit more extravagant with my looks, and that one was just a little, and maybe that one was a little bit boring last year. But yeah, I definitely like it more than the next one. So the Dior Rosewood Neutrals, like this one, I feel like, honestly, maybe I would have thrown this one right underneath. I think I would have put the Paris Edit in front of this one this year, because the Rosewood Neutrals, guys, like this was a pretty concept palette. Like if you guys see, the colors are just so pretty. But when you put them on, like, I just felt like it was so blah for being Dior. and I didn't like the formula. I didn't like the formula. I also didn't like the cream little product that they had in here. I just did not like this palette. This palette, I expected so much more from it. And now maybe it's because it's Dior that I was just like waiting to have my socks blown off, and I love these like burgundy-ish shades, and I just didn't feel like it performed to par. I wanted it to be so much better for the price tag. So yeah, I think the Paris Edit was definitely better than this one, so I think I would switch those two this year. So the Marc Jacobs Extravagance palette. So this one I actually do like it. This one actually I do like. I think the problem that I had with this palette was that I felt like it was one of those palettes that you needed another palette to make it work good. So I didn't like it that much as a standalone palette. But I think I would put it a little bit higher on the list this year because there's something about that green shade that's in it that's just so beautiful. But I still think I would feel the same. Like, it's just not a palette that like I reach for. I have it there, and actually I don't reach for it that often at all. So maybe it makes a little bit of sense why it was so low on my list, because I really, this year, I don't think I've used it this year. I don't think I have. Okay, so the Colourpop Wild Nothing. Now this one I probably this year would say I would have knocked this down to maybe the second worst of the year, because the Colourpop Wild Nothing, the problem with this palette is it just doesn't show up on my lids. It's like literally nothing. Some of the colors look okay, but most of the colors don't show up. I just wanted this to be so amazing. I really wanted this palette to work, and I tried. I tried with this palette for a while, and it would be something that if I decluttered it, I would not miss it. So I think I would probably throw this to the second worst, like right after the Fantasine, because I literally feel like if I didn't have it in my collection, I wouldn't even miss it at all. Okay, so the Wayne Goss Imperial Topaz. I really love the color story of this palette. This was such a pretty palette. Now, I have a problem with this palette though. I can't use it. So I'm probably gonna be giving this one to my mom. There's something in Wayne Goss's formula that irritates my eyes, and I really didn't want this to be true. It took me a while to actually get down to, wow, it really is this palette. I don't know which formula it is in there. I really can't determine which one it is, but something, when I use this palette the next day, my eyes are very dry and I need to put in eye drops. So that's the reason that it's kind of low, and it would probably be lower just because I can't use it. But if I was somebody who could actually use this palette is so pretty. And the looks that I created when I used this palette were so beautiful. It really took me a while to realize it was this palette. I had to use it multiple times until I finally said, huh, I think it is this palette. And it took me a while. Maybe I was in denial. Maybe I didn't want to believe it. But yeah, I think it is for sure that palette that really irritates my eyes. But otherwise, it's really, really pretty. So the next one we have the Huda Beauty Obsessions. And this is the Khaki Obsessions. Ooh, why is this one so low on my list? I mean, I guess it's not really low. I think at this point I really liked every single palette, but there must be some pretty good palettes in here to have me have put this one this low. I feel like myself right now in 2021 would have had that palette pretty high up there because I love the color story right now. I am so into like that khaki greenish kind of eyes. I also love the look that I have on today. Like, I'm really feeling in between a cool tone with a little bit of warmth, but I guess myself is a little bit loving the cool vibe. So I think I would have put the Khaki Obsessions a lot higher this year. Like, for sure. This year that would have been a lot higher. That is a beautiful palette. Oh my God, did I love that palette. I still love it. I have used it this year too. Okay, so the Natasha Denona Trio Chrome. So this one is interesting because I have gotten a new love for it this year that I didn't have last year. Last year I liked it, but this year I really like it. And it's because I really dived into it and I started playing with different looks, and I feel like there's just so much variety in that palette that you can't even tell. I do not like the Trio Chromes. Like, I don't like the shifty shades, but they don't have that much of a shift to them. So because of that, I actually do like them. I know that sounds confusing. I don't think that they should have been sold as trio chromes because I don't think that they really shift enough. Maybe a dual chrome, but they have such a small shift that they're actually more like metallics with like a little shift in it, which for me is good because I don't really like shifty shades. So I actually like that, and I actually have a brand new love for that palette. So I think this year I would have liked it a little bit more than last year. So here's an interesting one, the Huda Beauty Naughty Nude. I actually have it in the 9th spot. This one I would have put down this year. I would have probably had it around the Wayne Goss, probably. Now the reason is because it's a pretty palette. It's definitely beautiful and I really like it. But I have noticed that every time I use it, like I feel like all the looks come out very similar, and I wanted it to have more brown in it. And now as I've been using it more often, I'm like, I wish there was more brown. Like there was something in that palette that just doesn't drive me to want to use it. And last year I liked it, but then this year I've been kind of like, wow, why is it that I don't grab it? And the new Natasha Denona Retro came out, and I realized that the Retro I like a little bit better. And I think it's because the Retro I'm able to do a little bit more looks, even though you would think the Naughty Nude you could, but you can't. So I actually feel like that palette I need to play with more. Like I want to pull that one out and really dive into it a little bit more. Because like at this moment right now, I would tell you guys I don't hardly ever use it. Like I don't want to. Okay, so the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice. I loved this palette last year. And I will tell you that this year I don't think I have used it as much, and that's just because of the overwhelming amount of eyeshadow palettes that I have, and you know, like you kind of get drawn into certain ones. I still think that that's a beautiful palette. I think that that one was arranged nice. I like the color selection in it, and I really like that palette. I think that it was one of Too Faced's best holiday palettes that they have come out with in a while, because it wasn't super holiday-ish, you know, like it had a really nice color story. It was interesting. I still really like that one. Ooh, Natasha Denona's Mini Zendo. That one, would I put that higher? Oh no, I think the rest of the stuff is really good. Yeah, I think Natasha Denona Mini Zendo is in a really good spot right here. If I would have known middle size, what is it, the midi, I probably would have been like, oh my God, why did she do that to Zendo? But I actually really like this palette. It's so pretty. I really like this one. Yeah, so this one is pretty high up there, and I think I would have kept it probably where it's at, if not a little bit higher. So number 6, I actually had the Mcgrath Celestial Divinity. I have actually gotten a new admiration for this palette, because I feel like after getting the Celestial Odyssey, I really can realize how special the Celestial Divinity was, because the Odyssey is very pretty and it has like really nice colors in it, a little bit more easy to wear colors, but you can mix less together. Whereas I feel like the Celestial Divinity, I was actually able to mix more colors together. So number 5, I had the Dose of Colors Cutting Edge. Ooh, would I have kept that one the same? I don't know. Maybe I would have bumped it. Maybe I would have bumped it down just a little bit, just because maybe I would have put the Odyssey before it. But I do like that Cutting Edge palette. That is a good palette. Yeah, that is a really good palette. Yeah, I can understand why I had it so high. I think I used that one a lot last year and I was really obsessed with it. So I understand it. It was a great formula. And actually after those palettes came out from Dose of Colors, they kind of like disappeared, right? What happened to them? So Makeup by Mario, the Master Mattes. And yeah, I have this in the 4th spot. I love this palette, but more as a mixer palette. Like I feel like this is like that needed palette that you have all your browns somewhere, and then no matter what palette you have coming, you can blend it with it. You can use it as a blending palette. It's actually a really good travel palette, even though everything is matte in it. It just creates such beautiful matte brown looks that I just really like this palette. He actually could probably come out with this same concept for all of the base shades, you know, like a black one. He could probably do one that's a little bit more reddish toned, and I think it's a great concept. I really love this brown one though. I feel like it's like kind of like your necessity palette. It's so good. Still love it. So next is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam. So I actually tried it last year. Look at that, guys. I still really love the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam. That is such a good palette. Like literally it could have been number 1, but I see what's coming and I know why I put it on the 3rd spot. I really like this palette. This was a beautiful palette. It's probably one of the best neutral palettes I have ever owned. And it's just one that I think that everybody will love. Like it's like an ultimate palette. It's so good. So the next one, I have the Natasha Denona Glam palette. This was such a hit. I love this palette. And actually, after using it more, I actually think that this would go into my #1 spot this year. Like, this would be probably the #1. I would probably change this one for sure. But ooh, did I love Natasha Denona's Glam palette. Oh, that was such a good palette. That was such a good palette. But yeah, I probably would bump this one up for sure. I think this one would go up on my list because as of right now, I'm thinking that was a good palette. So then we have the Natasha Denona Mini Retro. That was #1. I was so excited last year for Mini Retro. It was so beautiful. I think I would put it after the Glam this year. Yeah, I probably would put it after the Glam, maybe even after the Soft Glam. So maybe we'll give it the 3rd spot this year just because I really love it. But of course, it's like there's only 5 shades. So there's only so many looks that you can create. And I love the looks that I create with it. But, you know, after having it for a year and just being like, okay, well, you know, I know the kind of looks I can do with this. I think I would probably put it in the 3rd spot this year because it's beautiful. But, you know, it's limiting. But damn, you know, last year I was so excited for retro. I thought that this, you know, I knew she was going to come out with the midi retro. Like, I knew it was going to come, but I really thought it was going to look like that small retro, and I was so excited. So if I would have known that this year it would have been like burgundy, I probably would have been so mad last year, you know? But yeah, so I hope you guys have been seeing here on the side of the screen how I've been kind of like rearranging my order. So you guys saw the original placement, and now I'm showing you guys how I would probably rearrange it for 2021. So this would be my order in 2021. As I've been talking during this video, I've been kind of like moving them around and kind of putting them in the right placement of what I think that they would have been this year. But yeah, that is where I would probably put it. I think that I kind of would feel the same about most of the items. 20 didn't have the most interesting eyeshadow palette releases because looking at this, I'm kind of like, huh, I didn't have any like, oh my God moments except for like the bottom like 5 that I was like, oh, and even one of them is actually an older release. So it's pretty interesting. Anyways, so pretty soon I'm going to be doing my 2021 ranking of all of my eyeshadow palettes. I have no idea how many I picked up this year. So that is going to be really interesting. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I will see you guys in the next one.